Hello, hello, everyone, to a special Cubers Live interview with the one and only Dylan Miller, Dilly Millie himself.
Yo, what's up?
How's it going, Dilly Millie? And in case you didn't notice, actually, you almost certainly didn't notice, we got the brick wall behind us.
Yes,
The only reason this is here is so we can block out everything behind us, because behind us is the Minnesota Convention Center North American Championships 2024. We are here in the building. Actually, the events of the day have already started. It's Thursday. Mega Minx already happened. How did you do?
Not the greatest, man.
You started off with the 33, though.
I did start off with the 33. I got a little bit bailed on last layer. I got a pretty easy case after that. Didn't have to do like EP at all. But
nice.
Yeah. It was pretty nice. Just got like A perm. But yeah, 33. I was like, okay, haven't practiced a little bit, might get a good average, and then it just went downhill from there, bro.
Okay, I mean, it is what it is. That's what ended up happening to me too. I told you I was just absolutely sucking today. Just haven't practiced in a while. I'm just garbaged here. Got a good solve one. I'm like, okay, maybe this could be like a decent average. No, it just got worse and worse.
Yeah.
It was not the mood, but I mean, I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, man.
I think
awesome.
I think it's hype. I love major championships.
I definitely.
I think like the vibe behind the major championships is really unique. Not to say that the local comps aren't great, because they have their own vibe, but to get all the cubers in like one spot, all the top cubers in the world, and they're vying for records, of course. But I think what's really interesting is the major championships offer a rare opportunity to pit cubers directly against each other in an equal format.
Yeah.
I think that's really unique. There just aren't opportunities to do that. If you try and do that at home, it's just not quite the same, right?
Yeah.
I'm curious what you think about it as like kind of like in the top level, because I remember in the hotel lobby yesterday, right? There's just people are everywhere.
Yeah.
There's like so many people you recognize. People recognize you. It's just kind of wild. So tell me about what you think about the overall environment and just your vibe on major championships.
Yeah, I mean, I love majors. Like, I'm like in a more secluded area geographically when it comes to like competing and all that. So a lot of my friends are online. I don't really get to see them that much. So when I'm like just going to the venue the day before, like just in the lobby, and like I can just walk like 2 feet, and then there's like a brand new group of people that I haven't seen in like a year, 2 years. It's definitely really cool, and just like it's great to just hang out and see people. As for like the competitive aspect of it, like obviously there's a little bit more tension to majors. Like everyone's a little more nervous, a little more on edge. But I mean, it's always still like a fun environment, and I really enjoy just like being here and like hanging out with everybody that I haven't seen in like a long time.
Yeah, I think that's like one of the major things that that was pun intended, perhaps not intended. That's like one of the things I think is great about the majors is, for cubers in particular, who are not exactly the most social people sometimes.
Yeah, definitely.
I feel like it's a good opportunity to be like, all right, everyone together. It's people you recognize, right?
Yeah.
So you have things to talk about, and it just gives people an opportunity to just kind of mingle. It's our community, right?
Yeah.
Our community is so small to the point where like if you recognize someone, there's either a decent chance that they recognize you, or there's like a good chance that they're just willing to just talk to you.
Exactly.
Right? Even if you're just a nobody. And I think that's really fun. I mean, kind of like what we're doing now. I'm a nobody, right? And then you're actually a somebody.
Nah.
So, I mean, you're somebody enough to show up at any All-Stars and do really well. Tell me a little bit about that experience. Very, very interesting. I mean, we talked about it immediately after too, but just kind of want to riff on it a little bit.
Yeah, dude. NA All-Stars was like a crazy good experience. Like I love to see that we're doing more stuff like that for the community, just like in general. I thought I'd be a lot more nervous. I mean, like I definitely still took a long time to get ready, but for me, it's like a lot more nerve-wracking to be like in a more intimate environment and have like not like a smaller crowd where I can like contextualize like, oh, I can feel these eyes on me. But when there's like so many people, it's just like brain overload. I just can't even I can't even understand any of it. So, but yeah, the craziest thing was like there was a clip of it on the stream, but yeah, I like looked up and I was like, oh my god, dude, it was like a stadium. It felt like there's like 3 stories of people just like looking at me, and I was like, that's insane, man. Like, but yeah, just being able to have like a competitor waiting area where it's just like a bunch of people that I know, like I recognize, like we can all just hang out and like vibe. And 3x3 only, especially for All-Stars, was really cool, because most of the time I spend a lot of my time just like waiting for other events, and then it's like I have more time in between 3x3, but everything kind of went pretty quick, and I really appreciated that of it. And yeah, it was crazy, man. Like I did my fist solve for round 2, and like
there we go. I was gonna bring this up.
Yeah. I took a long time to like compose myself, because I had like a 10 on the board, and I was like, okay, I don't want to count the 10, dude. I need to make finals. And then after that, I went to go get lunch, and then I had 2 non-cubers stop me on the way to lunch and be like, dude, I saw your solve, man. The tournament was so cool. And I've never had that experience before. Like that, yeah, that's electric. But yeah, it was insane, man. I've never had that experience before. I've had people recognize me from like whatever, but yeah, it was cool to think like all these people at the mall who like never really seen cubing before were able to like get into it, and like we're enjoying the experience of it. So that was really cool for me to see.
Yeah, I mean, tell me a little bit about what the competing environment was like, because as you mentioned, it's a shorter thing, right?
Yeah.
There's only 30 people. I think one of the most interesting things that I actually didn't think of until Nick Silvestri brought up during the commentary itself. I mean, most of the time, you're not thinking about, oh, am I going to make it to the next round? Because,
Yeah.
it's basically a shoo-in you're going to make final. Who's
Exactly.
really going to compete?
Yeah.
But here, it's like everyone has a sub-7 average, right?
Yeah.
The environment is such a case that you're not going to get a sub-7 average just on log,
Yeah.
right? Like, you have to kind of, like, try for it, too. So tell me a little bit about what that was like.
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm from Louisiana, right? So, sub-10 podiums for us most of the time. So, yeah, I've never really had to worry about finals or whatnot. And so, when I do have to worry about it, it, like, stresses me out a lot more. So, and, like, I didn't make nationals finals last year, even though I was, like, a easily projected seed to make it. So that kind of took a little mental toll on me, because obviously I want to make it this year and, perform well because I feel like I've improved a lot. But, yeah, it was super cool. Like, the competing experience was nice. Yeah, I'm glad I wasn't, like, too nervous or anything. But, yeah, I mean, obviously, like, the shorter format for me was really nice. There was a little bit of time where, like, at lunch I was like, okay, I gotta get back, bro. I gotta hurry. Like, normally I'd have, like, some like, time to figure it out.
Right.
But, yeah, I mean, it was really nice. I enjoyed it.
Okay, yeah, for sure. What was it like, I guess, like, because it's, like, very head-to-head against, like, everyone else, too, right? So tell me a little bit about what it was like in that competitor waiting area.
Yeah, the competitor waiting area, I mean, it wasn't even that bad, really. Like, I was just hanging out with my friends,
Yeah.
Like, the people I talk to online are, like, generally, people who were in All-Stars. So, yeah, we were just cracking jokes, It was just, like, we were on a Discord call or whatnot, just having fun, goofing around.
Okay.
Yeah, people... It kind of gets cliquey, like, not really, like, but it's like, hey, these people I talk to online, like, I'm going to stay with this group, or, so certain people just hang out with the same people over and over.
Sure,
so
yeah.
It wasn't too crazy for me, but whenever my friends went up to compete and I'm just, like, alone and I can, like, feel everyone else around me and, like, they're locking in and they're, like, trying to do really well, it was definitely, like, it felt way different than even, like, a major has before. Like, majors don't even feel like that because, like you said, like, you're more nervous for just, like, any round. Like, yeah, like, 7-7 to make second round and round one, I think is very telling of how nervous everyone was to even compete there, because I was not expecting it to be 7-7. That was that was definitely surprising. I was thinking it would at least be like 6-8 or something.
Okay.
I don't know, but yeah, it was crazy. You could tell people were very nervous for it.
Yeah. So the other thing I kind of want to talk about a little bit is this is something that, like, I think is, like, a little bit of a topic right now, is kind of just, like, the way cubing, like, how competitive cubing currently is. And by competitive, I mean, like, how much, like, head-to-head competitiveness there is, and, like, kind of, like, what the tension is like. I think they called it the Purple Room, whatever, on Tuesday.
Green room.
Tell me a little bit about that and what the experience was like in there, because you were in there, like, relatively, you were in there. I think you were like the 6th seed or 5th seed.
Yeah.
So you were in there for like a decent amount of time, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the green room is like, it's kind of got this allure to it, I guess, or whatnot. That's what Mayernik was saying. And yeah, we don't really get that much footage of it. The only footage we really have is, like, NAC 2022. We had, like, the 10-man relay. But that was really fun. Like, that was my first major since 2019 that I had.
Yeah.
Obviously the pandemic and whatnot. So I didn't really compete in there. But, yeah, I know somebody said online that, like, the green room is, like, there's all this tension in the room. And, like, it's like you can cut it. It's like, I didn't really feel like there was any tension, man.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like it's more just, like, a personal, like, your mindset thing. Like, I felt like it was I was cracking jokes. We were having fun in there. I was joking with, like, the prison warden, we called him.
The prison warden?
Yeah, because he was monitoring our phones and whatnot. So we were just like,
oh, to make sure you're not on the screen.
Yeah. It's like, can't, and, like, Luke was like, can I use the bathroom? Like, he's the teacher now. It's
Yeah,
like,
back to, like, elementary school.
Yeah, bro. It's like we're being watched and stuff. But yeah, like, I was just cracking jokes. It was a good time. Like, Timma was just reading Dune in there. Maddie had, like, a Kindle, I think. They were just,
all right.
bro,
Okay.
they were the top
chill.
seeds. They were just chilling, bro.
Oh,
Like,
okay.
I mean, obviously, I was one of the earlier seeds, so, like, I was, I was trying to do some solves if I could,
Sure.
but yeah, I mean, yeah, every agreement I've been in has been just, like, a really chill environment. The most stressful one was 19 for me, because at that point, I didn't really view myself as, like, a competitor at that point, because, I was in there with, like, Rami and Patrick and I think
the names.
Felix, Max. I was just like, dude, this is crazy.
Yeah.
But now I feel like, that's kind of more the older generation type. I mean, Patrick and them are still around, but, I feel like we're definitely in a newer era of cubing, and so I view myself more as a competitor. I still have some, like, imposter syndrome at times where it's like,
Sure.
when people come up to me and they're like, hey, can I get your autograph? It's like, bro, what do you want? Why do you want my autograph, bro? It's like, it's not that deep.
I'm just a dude.
Yeah, literally. But yeah, I think it's really cool. And the grooming experience is always nice. Like,
Okay.
you know, there's a little bit of like, okay, I want to win clearly,
Yeah.
but you know, I view everyone in there as my friend because I mean, you know, over time it's like, you know, I really like I've met these people like over many years, and it's like, you know, I've made a connection with them, and like for me, I don't view them as a competitor, and it helps me a lot to think about them that way as well, instead of thinking of it like, hey, like this is a person that I'm trying to, you know, go well against. It's like, this is my friend, and like if he beats me, he beats me. Like NAC 2022,
Yep.
I got 4th place by like .0 something, and like I lost to Luke Garrett, and Luke's my boy, man. And like
no hard feelings.
Yeah, immediately after, like I gave his mom a hug, we were just chill, and I was like, congrats, man. And so like I love seeing my friends do well, and that's kind of the main thing for me. But obviously, like I don't do well as well, so you know, however it works out, it'll work out.
So tell me, so there's so many threads I want to pull out here. You are a fantastic interview, I have to say.
Thank you.
Okay, let's start on this one. Tell me how like your experience is different. I guess like because how do you think you've changed from that 2019 green room to now, where you know, because like people talk about you. I think you're still kind of underrated personally.
Appreciate it.
But you know, like you're in this conversation. You know, people are like, oh yeah, like Dylan is just gonna make finals, right?
Yeah.
So tell me about how like you think you've kind of evolved since then, because that's been it's like 5 years, which is quite a long time. I mean, you've definitely matured since then as well, right?
Yeah, definitely, dude. Yeah, I mean, 2019, like, I had missed Nationals finals because I've been in Nats since 2016, every Nats and everything since then. And, like, Nats 2016, I was, like, an unknown kid. I got, round 1, I got, like, a sub-8 average, or, like a mid-8 average, and I was top 16. And I was, like, 10 at the time or something, like 12, maybe 11. And then I was like, dude, like, there's a chance I make finals here. And then I missed it, and I got second to last place in semis. And I feel like ever since then, it kind of set like a bad tone until like you know. And then 2018, I think I was like on pace to do it. And then Sol 5, I had like H from on bottom. I missed it, and so like I had so many like things that culminated in me finally making it 2019 that like it just felt surreal. Like I never had expected it to happen because I just failed so many times. But yeah, then I made it, and then it was like eye-opening experience. Like, you know, obviously, like I said, it was really cool being around all those top cubers, and I felt like I didn't belong. And then, yeah, obviously we didn't have any competitions for, like, a long time.
Yeah.
I didn't have any majors. But, yeah, in that time, like, I feel like I've developed a lot. I think more so a lot of it's happened in, like, the last year or so, because I didn't make Worlds finals either. And that also was, like, a big, you know, hit to my mental game, which I feel like isn't even the greatest for, like, most people right now. Like, I get very nervous very easily. But yeah, nowadays I feel like I've proved myself to a certain degree, where it's like, you know, I am feeling better more consistently in comp. Like, I had a long period of time where like I just felt like I couldn't do anything near my at-home results in comp, and like I still feel that way to a degree, but nowadays I feel like I'm more able to like manage my like competition nerves and whatnot. Like, my mean of 3 rounds at NA All-Stars was my best mean of 3 rounds ever. Like,
Okay.
And that was the most consistent solving I've had with like a decent like PR2 average. So like,
oh damn,
yeah, PR2 average with like best ever mean of 3 rounds at a comp with those conditions. Like,
yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Like, it's not at home. It's not at your local comp.
Yeah. So I mean, it was really cool. I think like for majors now, the main difference is, like I said, like everyone that's in the major championships now, like for finals, Worlds not so much, but like for the Nationals and NA All-Stars, are people that I know. Like they're my friends, and like for me, it just feels like we're just boys hanging out more so than like, you know, it's more cutthroat. Like we're trying to go at each other. But you know, that's obviously like something that's going on in the community. Like, you know, cubing as a whole is like, it's somewhat of a hobby. It's somewhat of a sport. It's kind of hard to find that balance of
totally.
You know, like how deep is this? Like how much do we really care? And so I think it's a person by person basis.
Okay, for sure. That last point is one that I'm definitely gonna get back to.
Yeah.
Let me get back to something earlier. The mindset. I think this is something that we have only recently started to tap into. When I talked to Maddie in San Diego last year, I talked to Schwan about this a little bit, about how Max's mindset is kind of built up. When we were in Mexico, I know Mayernik did an interview with Luke Greiser about this as well. Tell me about what your view on like competitive mindset it is, and how to kind of how do you get into the zone and kind of manage your expectations and kind of like hype yourself up and back yourself up to clutch it out in like the really tough situations.
Yeah, I mean, I think the easiest thing to say is just like you have to not care, and that's what Tim has said. You have to condition yourself to not care about your results, and that's obviously really hard to do. You know, everyone wants to do well. Everyone wants to, you know, get good achievements or whatnot. But yeah, I've had to tell myself that I don't care about my results, and that's been really hard for me because I've always been very emotionally tied to my results. And you know, every nationals that I had previously, I didn't make finals. Like, you know, I cried a lot at that, bro.
Yeah.
Like, you know, if I missed it, it always hurt real bad, and like all those things culminate. And so I had to tell myself that it's not that deep. Like, cubing's not my life, even though I spend a vast majority of my time cubing. Yeah, I mean, on top of that, it's just like something that I've had real problems with is like, you know, I get a bad time, I start going on tilt. After Southeast Champs, I was looking at some of my worst averages, and I like wrote down in my notebook, like, okay, these are things that I can like visibly improve on, and like this is something that I need to work on. And so taking a less like emotionally based approach to it, because you know when you do that, you can get streaky, right? It's like you can really like run off that, or you can like really falter in the big moments. So you know, Max had the quote of like, don't think, just solve.
Yeah,
and
very
like,
famous.
I'm not gonna lie, I thought it was kind of corny at the time, right? But you know, it's the same thing in like basketball, which is like what kind of helps me think about it, is like if you're a shooter's gonna shoot. If you airball, bro, you got to go back and shoot again. Like, you got to keep going for it. So
that's true.
You know, it's very much just like whatever happens, you know, go to the next solve. And you know, even for like the warm up comp before All Stars at the Mall of America, in finals, obviously, like it's not as competitive as All Stars, but we had a lot of good solvers there as well. And yeah, after solve 1, I +2'd a 5.6, so I had a 7 after solve 1, so it's like already I'm on thin ice.
Back against the wall.
Yeah, solve 2, I get a 6.7. I'm like, okay, I'm cooked. And so then it's like I felt myself starting to go on tilt, and I was like, okay, I've told myself I need to work on this. I need to actually improve on this. And so like having to check back in and be like, okay, I have a 6.7, but I can come back from this, and all I control is what's going forward. So then I got it a 5.2 and a 5.3, and the average actually got saved, and I was like, you know, ended up being like a 6.1 average with counting 6.7, 5.3. There
you go.
It's not the end of the world, right? It was still good mean of 3 rounds, and so I was happy with that. But yeah, I think the biggest thing that I've had to do is, you know, be more mindful and not care about my results, which is obviously super hard to do, and then just like be very forward thinking and like don't dwell on anything that happened in the past.
Yeah.
And try to be less like emotionally based in my results, and like, you know, whatever happens. There's always the next comp, next round, whatever. I can prove myself whenever I need to.
I have to say that is probably the most base thing I've heard in a while. To go in and be like, yeah, like because +2. It's one thing to just like get like a raw like 7, right?
Yeah.
It's another thing to get like a +2, because it's like probably one of the smaller execution errors you can make.
Yeah.
And well, it's a small execution error that has like a really bad penalty, right? Because most execution errors are like maybe you lose like a 1/10 of a second, right?
Literally, yeah.
So to come back after that, and then, you know, like kind of, I'm gonna put it in your terms, mediocre. For me, that'd be absolutely amazing. But yeah, to come back after that and then the mediocre solve, and I think it's really cool that like you're like, this is something I'm supposed to work on, and kind of lock in from there.
Yeah.
I think that speaks a lot. Do you think it's because also like, because I would say you're a bit of more on the older-ish side of like the top competitors. Well, at least, you know, we have Yihang now, so he kind of just throws everything off back.
Yeah, that's crazy.
But do you think like that's like an advantage that you have, like kind of like being a little bit more older, being more mature?
No, I think actually it's worse for me.
Oh, really?
I think I was a way better competitor when I was a kid.
Huh.
Because I didn't know how averages worked. Like, bro, when I tell you, bro, I was a kid and I literally was like, oh, dude, I got 2 good solves. That's great. And then I didn't even think, like, I wasn't even conscious enough to be like, oh, dude, wait, I'm pacing. Oh, I'm going to get PR. I didn't have the context.
The brain power's not there.
Literally, I didn't have the context to be like, on a world scale, I'm about to do something crazy, right? Now it's like anytime I do something, I start pacing something. It's like I have all these expectations. I have all this like previous experiences that I've had built up that it's like, I want to do something great for myself. I've invested so much more time now. It's like everything was so much easier back then. And like, I feel like the kids have a buff, man. You look at like Timofey Tarasenko, like Brendan was a really good competitor when he was younger. Obviously, Yihang, I think, is a little bit of a different experience. But, you know, all these kids, I feel like they have a buff. Like, they just, I feel like, aren't conscious enough, or like they just, maybe they just don't even care about it yet. And so, like, for me, I feel like I'm a lot older, and like this stuff means a lot to me. But like I was saying, like I'm very emotionally invested, and like I was back then too. But I mean, you know, I'm
the
not
scale is
calculating.
different. Like,
exactly.
Like the kid is like, I guess like you're emotionally invested. You might be more it's spiky.
Yeah.
You're more emotionally invested for maybe like the 15 minutes, right?
Yeah.
But then after that, you go to McDonald's and everything's all good.
No, literally, yeah.
Whereas like I feel like I'm the same to some extent, where like I have like a bad result and I'm thinking about it all day.
Yeah.
And if it's a really bad result and something I really cared about, I'm just like my day is ruined.
Yeah, exactly.
But interesting. I will definitely think about that. I think as I go forward and even into my solves. You know?
Yeah.
Because I think, do you think it's like something that everyone can kind of improve on?
I mean, yeah, obviously, like if it's just don't dwell on anything in the past. Like, obviously, don't dwell on anything in the past. Like, try to just look forward. That's the whole idea of, like, don't think, just solve. And, like,
Yeah.
I think the quote is very cleanly put, just like the main idea. But I think there's a lot behind it that, like, doesn't get said when you just say that.
Okay.
blanketly.
Let's pivot a little bit.
Okay.
Worlds.
Okay.
In the States.
Yeah, crazy.
Next year, Seattle. What is, like, your mind? You're almost certainly going to go. I mean, you're qualified phase 1, right? So you will almost certainly be able to go if you want to. What is your mindset going into Worlds? Because we're a year out, so I'm sure it's on your mind, right?
I haven't really thought about it that much.
Oh, really? Yeah. Interesting. So maybe this is not good. Maybe I'm adding some tension here. But I guess, like, maybe then talk about it in, like, terms of, like, a top level perspective of, like, when it comes towards, like, major championships as they get closer. What is your mindset when it comes to, like, practice?
Yeah.
When it comes to managing expectations, things like this. I'm particularly interested in practice. Do you, like, you mentioned, like, you went back and looked at some of your averages.
Yeah.
Is that, like, on film? Like, do you take notes down?
Yeah. Well, that was a new thing that I've started to do because I realized, like, I would record all these, like, attempts at home at comp, and, like, obviously not every round's PR, so I would get, like, bad attempts, and then it'd just tilt me, and I'd just be like, man, like, this comp was so bad, like, it wasn't even worth it to go. And then it's like, thinking about it instead of, like, a bad attempt, it's like it's a learning experience, right? So it's like, why were these solves bad? What did I miss here? And so, like, I've started trying to be more mindful about that and, like, make something out of my mistakes. And, even, like, for All-Stars, I looked back at my footage.
Already?
Yeah, even for All-Stars, because going into NAC, because I wasn't too happy with my finals performance, and I was talking to some of the other competitors, and they were like, oh, I really like those scrams. And, like, in my head, I was like, I didn't really like those too much. And so it's, like, clearly there's something I'm missing here, and that's something I've been working on a lot. Like, when it comes to my practice is, like, being able to inspect more. The whole time I was, like, kind of on my up and up, I guess. Like, everyone was like, oh, yeah, he's just turns fast. He's just a kid, TPS kid, whatever. And I've really prided myself recently on focusing more on, like, just finding smart solutions. If you look, like, looking a lot of, like, Yiheng stuff. Because, everyone looks at Yiheng and they're like, I've had some people be like, dude, Yiheng just does simple stuff and he's good. And it's like, no, he's insane what he does. Yeah. He sees everything, and, like, I call it, like, finding the line, It's like,
I see
like
what
in
you
chess,
mean.
yeah. It's like there's very clearly the best approach forward, and you have to find that every time. And especially for white yellow, it's something you really need to do. And I felt like I didn't really find anything that great in finals, and so that was, like, when it comes to, like, championships and stuff, I've been focusing a lot. That my practice regimen has been a lot more on, like, finding what I think is the best approach, and then making sure that I get the best continuation possible. And then obviously my biggest point that I need to improve on is my last layer. And so obviously you don't want to just, like, cram a bunch of, like, ZB right before you go to a major or something.
Right.
If you get that
it's
case,
just not going to be effective.
Yeah, if you get that case, you're just going to mess it up. So going into Worlds, I plan on learning a little bit more ZB. I learned some ZB coming into this.
Okay.
I hoped to have learned more, but, I got a little bit more. And so, yeah, that's what I've been working on. And also at home, I don't use inspection most of the time because, like I said, I think it's better to find the best approach in an unlimited amount of time and then work on being able to condense that into 15 rather than trying to force myself to do it in 15 initially, right? It's like you have to be able to do it before you can do it quickly.
I 100% agree.
Yeah, so leading up to a major, I do a lot more inspection practice, trying to make sure I'm doing the same things that I'm doing at home in 15 seconds. And then I change a lot of my competition, like my format to, like, competition format.
Okay.
So, like, at home, I just do solves mindlessly, kind of go through. I'll have something I'm thinking about, but I'll do, like, a few hundred solves a day. And, I'll be streaming, and recently, like, on stream, it's like I try to contextualize everything in terms of, like, an average of 5. Instead of being like, hey, I did an average of 5, it was bad, I'll just roll it. And then, like, oh, okay, I got an AO12, whatever, I'm cool with that. Instead, I want to be like, okay, I have these 5 solves. Solve 1, bad. Solve 1, good. And just try to get myself, like, comfortable in all these situations that I can end up in comp, right? That's how I feel like you're able to handle, like, what I ended up dealing with in, like, All-Stars where I got.
Right.
Like, I managed to avoid that 10. And normally, I would not have been able to do that before, I don't think. I think I'd have faltered really bad under that pressure. Because that's what happened to me at Nationals. I had a 12, and then I DNF'd to 6.3. And that's how I missed it. It's like, it hurts real bad. But, I felt very good that All-Stars round 1, I counted a 5.3 to get PR2 average when I had, like, a 7.4 in the average, which, again, I don't want to count. And then All-Stars, I was able to, clutch up my average to get into finals.
Which was fire. Because it was also, like, to contextualize, it was the last solve
Yeah.
of the round. Everyone's watching also.
Yeah.
I love the reaction. I thought your reaction was great. It's just like, all right, mission accomplished.
Yeah, yeah. It wasn't like I was happy with the result. 5.9 is like pretty average time for me, but it was more so the fact that like
The context matters.
I was relieved.
Yeah.
I was just like, thank God I got this done. Like
Yeah.
I didn't choke. Like that's what I and the same like round one, like I was the last person to do my solves. Like Tim and Luke already finished, everyone was already done, and I had to, try to get like my my whatever average to make round 2 because I was just like, dude, do I even make round 2 here? Because BPA
it's tough,
or WPA like almost didn't even make it. I didn't know that at the time because I'm trying not to calculate.
Oh, would WPA have made it? I don't remember.
It would have, but I mean, I think it was 7-7 to make it. But I like.
Oh, in round one.
Round 1. But I was like, dude, 6-4. I don't even know. Like, yeah. So I was just like, I was glad that I was even able to clutch up, and like Sol 5 was like pretty at TPS too. And the big thing for me is like when I get nervous, I shake a lot. Like, and I'm a very turning dependent solver, I feel like. And so if I'm, not able to turn, then I feel like I'm not at my best.
Okay.
Okay.
So I think one thing that's really interesting because I think a lot of this is like just like a general thing. I feel like a lot of people are very TPS heavy and less so like inspection and look ahead heavy.
Yeah.
So if you had like a chart that's kind of like TPS on like one spectrum, well, I guess it's not really like a spectrum. It's more so like kind of like a 2D plane, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So you think right now you've kind of like advanced past just like being like TPS only and kind of like moving more and more towards like look ahead plus TPS.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, look ahead I think is a little bit less so because, over time I think my look ahead's gotten better. My thing is that I think I've improved a lot of my solutions and being able to find the best approach, like I said, finding the line or whatever.
Yeah.
Because I feel like when I was sub 7, I got really plateaued at like 6-8 for a while. Like around pandemic time, and I was just like, I don't know what to do here. And then I would just do solves, and I was like, man, this solution was just bad,
just trash.
Like I can't do anything to avoid bad F12 pairs, and it's like, you can. And so I have been focusing a lot more on that and trying to work on being able to get better continuations, focusing a lot more on like edge orientation to like inform my decision making. Because before I used to just go off vibes, but now I've been a lot more analytical about my approaches.
Yeah.
And when I find something and I mess it up, I go back and I try to fix it. And so I feel like I've been a lot more disciplined in my practice regimen and actually trying to get things done efficiently and not just kind of wing it and be able to get better just off doing solves. And I've been really proud of that. And it's I feel like I've definitely moved past. My look ahead's definitely gotten a lot better as well. In comp, like I think my look ahead kind of falters sometimes.
I mean, that's pretty typical. I feel with most people. So,
but I feel like if you were to like chart me, I'm still definitely TPS dependent. Like I've gotten like I have like a 14 TPS solve on cam and like some like
what?
Yeah, it was pretty hype.
That's absurd.
So. But yeah, I think I'm still definitely TPS dependent, and if my TPS isn't there, I think I'm not solving my best because I can't rely on just my solutions. They're not the greatest. But I've definitely, made my way into like a more efficient solver, I feel like.
Okay.
I was looking at my F2L move count compared to like Timon and Yihang, and like I think I'm only like 3.5 moves worse on average. Like when you compare all our solves in the DB like to Rico.nz. And so yeah, I felt really good about that. Like I've worked really hard to make that.
3.5 is like not that like 3.5 is still like a good distance, but I feel like it's not unassailable.
No. Yeah.
Especially when you're comparing against like Timon, who has like probably some like the most efficient solutions, I feel, and then Yihang, who's just insane.
Him and Yihang are like pretty much neck and neck. I think Timon's a little bit more efficient, but yeah, just the fact that I'm even like near them is something that I could have never said like a few years ago.
That's pretty neat. I'm really looking forward to this because I feel like this is something I really regret as a kid. Like, I just did TPS and I just did not care.
Yeah.
I TPS and ALGs. That's the only thing I cared about as a kid.
Yep.
And I just did not focus on look ahead. And I'm biting that. I'm, like, biting it really, really hard right now. Whereas, like, because everything to me is just like, yeah, my look ahead is just trash. And I think that's true for a lot of people. So I hope anyone listening is paying attention to this. Okay, let's pivot a little bit.
Okay.
Let's talk a little bit about, we briefly mentioned it earlier, state of, like, the cubing community.
Yeah.
Right now, I think you said it in an interesting way. It's like kind of in between like kind of a hobby and a sport.
Yeah.
But as like cubing gets bigger and bigger, do you think that's kind of, do you think like we can keep up that state, or do you think it's gonna kind of have to come to a reckoning where it needs to pick? Like, is it going to be like a hobby that anyone can kind of do and it's gonna stay casual, or is it gonna end up being in the more competitive world where we're gonna start seeing like kind of like tension, perhaps?
Yeah, I think. The WCA as a whole needs to kind of make that decision, right? Like, I talked about it recently, like in another interview, but we have people who literally just cube for fun on like their days off, And then we have people where cubing is literally their livelihood.
Yeah.
And the fact that we have one format that tries to, adhere to like both those people's conditions is not sustainable. I think that, you know, we could probably benefit from another format, as anything like All Stars more so. But I think if you look at something like Pokemon VGC, like competitive Pokemon, it's still like top level people doing what they need to do and like being able to make thousands of dollars off it.
Yeah.
And obviously that comes from like having support from your parent company, which other similar sports like Melee don't really have. But that's more of a grassroots thing. So it's like I think we can find a very good balance of like transitioning to a more grassroots thing where we're able to like support our own prize pools and still get parent company like support and sanctioning and being able to make all these things going on and stuff. But yeah, I think the future of cubing is going to be like the GAN SSL. And I think smart cubes are eventually going to be integrated, but it's like a few years down the road. But that just makes the spectator experience a lot better.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think like we need a more we need more money in cubing, I think. And that's obviously really hard.
Bingo.
But it all starts with making it more spectator friendly. And I think a way to do that very easily is just like the double elim head-to-head bracket. Get the top 16 solvers in the world. 16. If 1 through 16 doesn't want to do it, you get 17. 17, you get 18. Like, you have to have the best solvers in the world go head-to-head, double elim bracket, and then you can have storylines that are easier to follow.
Yeah.
Because right now, like, if you want to listen to a storyline in cubing, it's like you need to contextualize like all these previous competitions. That
a ton of previous comps.
None of these people were at, and it's like you have to try to like fit all these different people's like recent experiences into like what's going to possibly happen, and it's really hard to do that. It's a lot easier to be like, hey, this guy got eliminated by this guy and now they're about to duke it out, and like it's a lot easier to be like, oh, like he's pacing a better average, oh, BPA. It's like, no, like he beat him on this solve, he did this solve faster. I think it's a lot easier as a spectator experience, and I think it makes it a lot more viewer friendly. Like going back to Melee, I think like I'm not a person who plays Melee.
Yeah.
But I will watch a tournament,
dude,
and it is hype. Dude.
Same.
So I think if we can do something like that, like we don't need to be able to understand, like you don't need to be able to understand how to solve a cube, but you can still appreciate the viewership experience.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting point because I've often compared cubing to Melee and Smash.
Yeah, exactly.
I think there are so many interesting parallels because they have that like same core. It's the same like a bunch of nerds who just get together and just like are really passionate about like this like very specific thing.
Yeah.
And the difference I find is that like Melee is like since it tends to be like older, it's like a little bit more spicy.
Yeah.
And cubing is like a little bit more wholesome. I'm curious if you think that that's something that's going to continue, if cubing can remain wholesome through like as it turns into this competitive format, or there is also another option, a compromise perhaps, where it kind of like splits off. We have competitive cubing, and then we have cubing for everyone. And it's kind of like, you can I guess that's kind of what Nintendo wanted, right?
Yeah.
Nintendo wants everyone to be able to enjoy Smash without seeing it as cutthroat. So I'm curious what you think about this.
Yeah, I think we definitely need a division of some sort. I love the idea of having cubing still be like a thing that anyone can do, anyone can have it be like inclusive, and that's how you get people into the competitive scene eventually, right? So I think we still need to have that aspect of it. I don't want it to be like entirely competitive cubing, and I've seen people in CF be like, I love cubing as a hobby, I hate cubing as a sport, and I think they just maybe don't appreciate like the viewership experience of it, or like they're not a top solver, and so like they can't understand what's going on with all that. But I think it's really cool. Competitive cubing is really cool. I think All Stars has shown that. And then, we can take that a step further, like I said, the double head-to-head format. But, yeah, I don't know. I think we definitely need to service top-level solvers more. And I'm biased in that. But I think, it also was like viewership. And I think, like I said, All Stars was like, as a start of something new, great, I think, actually.
Okay.
So if we can have more local comps like that be like that, I think it'd be great.
Okay.
I think the thing with, like, we also need locals and like regionals to be worth more, I think. Because for me, like, I go to a local and it's like, it's not the same as like a Melee local is like, it's kind of, you still can win money in it. Like,
that's true.
I was looking at like some of the Louisiana fighting game community stuff and like, bro, their local competitions just like at an arcade, you can win like $200 if you like win your game. It's like, you would never get that in cubing. And so I think like
if I win anything in cubing, it's like, all right, solid.
Yeah, like it's like
I win a $5 gift card,
no,
I'm taking that,
bro. So it's like I think we'll need to have a cultural shift, I think. Cubing started off as a very wholesome experience, and like Berkeley Cube Club. It wasn't it was a club. It was just like people having fun, and
Yeah.
then like it eventually transpired into like competitions and whatnot.
Yeah.
But if we, and I think people are non-top solvers are really hesitant to make that switch over because they don't want to like lose the inclusive feeling of cubing, which I think is something great about it.
Yeah, definitely.
Like, you know, I think the Speed Cubers documentary was a great way of like illustrating that to a lot of people as well. And so it's really hard to balance like competitive cubing and like still having it be inclusive. But yeah, I would love to see, you know, maybe if it's just like increasing reg fees to have a prize pool. Any prize pool at just like any competition would be so well appreciated. Like there was a random competition in Texas and I won like $160 just like winning.
That's
like,
a payday.
It was, dude. I bought dinner. Like
there we go.
Like, I'm saying, like for me, like if I'm making money off cubing, it's because I'm coaching, and so like I would love to stay a competitive solver, but for me right now, it's like I feel like I'm incentivized to switch to be like a coach if I want to actually continue in the hobby to a degree. Because like you said, I am on the older side of things. You know, I'm like going to
only slightly.
I'm going to my junior year of college. It's like
I mean,
I feel old. Like my WCID is older than half these kids. It's crazy. So
that's unironically true. Actually.
No, actually, yeah, 2015 ID is old now. So yeah, I don't know. I would love to see it if we could make cubing competitions as a whole, like just at base, not even the regionals and majors, but just have them be more competitive. And because like for me, it's like I said, Louisiana is not the most competitive, and we just it's the same 2 or 3 people at podium and everything, and that's not like a bad thing. But I would love to see my community grow more, and I think if there was like money in it or other stuff like that, it would.
Well, you can make the argument that like, you know, if there's a prize pool, right? Someone sees that prize pool who currently is like maybe not super competitive, and it's like, oh, all I need to do, I can just push a little bit and I just get this.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
And you know, perhaps it provides other incentive. I know a lot of people, a lot of cubers are very. I'm trying to think of like it's kind of like it's not competitive. It's like competitive with friends. Yeah, it's like if my friend is doing this, like, well, I could do that too. Like it's just my friend, right? Like I see this guy every day. I feel like that it seems like one possible avenue at least. Yeah. I certainly think we are in a very interesting period for cubing. Yeah. You know, like we would not have this conversation 10 years ago. No. Like probably not even 5 years ago. Yeah. But post-pandemic, things have shifted so much, and there's a lot of potential. One thing I also want to ask, and this is probably one of the last things we'll get to. Okay. You are a streamer.
Yeah, a little bit.
I don't know if you saw any of like the live stream from All Stars, or if you plan to watch this one or previous live stream. How do you think that the live stream experience has kind of like evolved over the years, and what do you think that is going to change? Yeah. This is like a self-serving question also. Yeah, because like I'm trying to get ideas like, okay, how can I make my live streams better?
Yeah. I mean, so yeah, I helped set up like the Nats 18 or 19 live stream with Jules back then.
Oh yeah? Okay, cool.
I did a little bit. And yeah, it was it definitely doesn't have the same feel it has now. I think like we definitely have a much better production quality, and like before it was just like, you know, okay, hey, we have cameras and it's on YouTube, you can watch, and it's like, oh, maybe I'll be up here, maybe I won't. And I think the introduction of like the starring system for people in every group, so that way it's like, I hate to say it, but, and not to be elitist, but cubing is the most fun to watch when people are good at it, right?
Well, I don't think anyone wants to watch me cube other than my mom. So
I just think yeah, we need to serve top solvers more, I think, and make them have the spotlight, and that's obviously really hard to do. I think I loved the All-Star stream. It was great. Yep. You did a great job. My one thing is for commentating, like everything about it perfect. I loved it. I loved the mobile camera too. The fact
mobile
that,
camera
like,
is so good. I
like
love it.
there was times where it was like it was showing like Tim unsolve, and then like someone next to him would start solving, and they would switch cameras, and then it was like, okay, you see both of them solving now. That was super cool. That's something we never had before. It was just like you were locked in, and then like maybe you'd switch. You wouldn't see the whole solve, or like maybe you would, and like that was really great because now it's like much better viewership experience. No knocks against you. I think
no, this is good. I want to hear it.
Commentating, we need like a top level solver in there. Okay. Right? What I've heard from a lot of experienced competitors was, hey, production quality was great, loved the viewership experience. Commentating had something to be a little more desired, because even like basketball, right? You know, there's someone who's like, hey, he set this pick here, you know, this like all like they have the system down, and they can talk about the X's and O's of something. Yeah. And I think like something that I would have loved to see is like on Solve 1 of NA All-Stars Finals, there was a really easy X cross that I happened to miss. And so like I think it would have been really telling if you had somebody who was a top level solver who could be like, hey, everyone previously has done this X cross. He's not doing this here. Is this going to be good or bad for him?
Interesting.
And it ended up being bad for me. But I think like having a top level solver who can give like real time analysis of something, at least to like a certain degree, is really useful. And then like, you know, obviously they can give more information. Like us competitors, Brian Johnson got a 494, right? He did a 1-look last layer. We were all popping. We were like, dude, that was sick.
Yeah.
Like he did an alternate out. Like
no, I remember this now. Yeah, because it was it was like you could have done it with like Fat Soon, but I think he did a different alg.
Yeah, he did like a setup into like a VLS, which was like we were all like, dang, dude, that's hype. And so like I would have loved to have seen like more of a moment made out of that. And like y'all did call out that it was a 1-look last layer, and that was great. But I think it's just, and obviously like it's really hard because we're trying to appeal to somebody who like doesn't even understand the WCA format.
Yeah, totally.
So it's a lot harder to be like, hey, dude, I did this pseudo double X cross. It's like it doesn't make sense for them, right? So we have to get them in before we can actually do all that. So I understand that's tricky, but that would be my one thing is I would love to see like maybe a third commentator because like you know just a third commentator who can pop in every now and then like after the solve and be like, this is what he did. You know, here's where he maybe locked up or like. You know, for me, I'm thinking like, okay, how can you force a better continuation? It's like, you know, here you could have done this pair instead, and this other pair would have been better, right? So I would love to see more stuff like that.
Okay, for sure. No, it's good to hear. It's good to hear because these are all ideas, right? And maybe they are not feasible to implement immediately, but these are all things. Well, we have a year for Worlds. Yeah. Right. So if these are something that we can get together for Worlds to make that experience good for everyone, right? I'm sure we can integrate some kind of like play-by-play, some type of like color, and then it's just a color commentary. Yeah. It's really just Jim Nance and Tony Romo, right? Yeah. This is why Tony is the GOAT when it comes to commentating because he understands the system. Yeah. He understands like exactly where everything is going too. So yeah, we got a year. So I'm interested to see how that goes.
You know, I would love to be a part of that. I'm just saying.
Oh yeah.
Like you know, I did broadcasting in high school. I did a little bit of this.
All right. I mean, you're on the stream. Like I feel like that's also an important thing, right? Is like you could get a top competitor. Yeah. But if they're kind of meek, a little bit tough to, or if they're competing for sure. Yeah. But if you have to have a little bit of like camera quality as well, right?
Exactly.
And so being able to have that kind of, I don't want to call it Riz because then I'm going to sound a little too young, but to be able to carry yourself in that way, I think is also pretty important for a commentator.
Yeah, definitely. So. And cubers aren't the most outgoing people most of the time.
You can't just pick anyone out of the crowd. Let's just say it that
way. Yeah. But I think that'd be great to see definitely at some point.
For sure. I mean, all of this, like, again, is like part of the fact that like cubing is changing. Yeah, and it's changing probably. Well, I don't know if I want to say it's like changing faster than it ever has before, but it definitely is. Like a lot of stuff is happening, and I'm all hyped for it. Yeah. Because I think I'm also of like the spectator mindset. Like, how can we make this like a bigger thing? How can we reach out to more people? And how can we make it more hype? I'm just a hype man. Yeah. At the end of the day, right? Like, I might not be good at like doing any commentating other than just yelling. But if that gets people excited for cubing, if they think that cubing is cool, then I'm all for it.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, but definitely very interesting to hear. Let's wrap up. We've been yapping for a while. I'm sure you have other things to do as well. We're getting pretty close to lunchtime. Actually, we've just hit lunchtime. So, awesome. Let's do. I want to leave this opportunity for you to shout out anything. I mean, you got coaching and everything like that. Yeah, so the floor is yours, my friend.
Appreciate
I think you can talk into this one, yeah?
Hey.
Just directly?
Yeah, so, I, on YouTube, just my name, Dylan Miller. I post, like, solves on there. Also, I did a breakdown of Yang's world record recently, just stuff like that. I also stream a decent amount, like he was talking about. Yeah, streams are fun. People like them. I also do coaching. I have a video on my channel where you can hit me up on any of my Instagram or email me and we can work something out, and that'd be great. Currently, coaching is like my full-time job. I'm very fortunate that I'm able to pay my rent through coaching, which I think is a really cool thing going forward. I would have never expected that. So yeah, I appreciate that. Cubing's grown a lot, and I love you to check it out.
What are the handles?
Just on Instagram.
Yeah, just everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
Just spit them.
YouTube is just Dylan Miller. Instagram, it's Good Rubric. GUUDRUBRIC. I need to change that soon.
Oh, God.
But, yeah, that's how you can check me out. And then my email is just dmcuber818@gmail.com.
There we go. Everyone, this has been an exclusive interview with Dylan Miller, one of the greatest, I think, who's currently doing it. I'm excited to see. Best of luck with the rest of NAC, my friend.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
All right, and thanks for Happy Feet for putting this on.
Yeah, definitely.
Toodaloo.
Peace.